The base is loaded, 8-5.
Delaware County, New York is one of the least racially diverse counties in the country, with a population that is nearly 98% white. But in its southeastern corner, nestled in a valley on the edge of the Catskill Park Preserve, is a small village called Fleischmanns. On a summer evening, you can wander into the Mexican restaurant on Main Street and feel like you're at a dance party in Mexico. You can stop in at the local bodega and pick up some fresh cactus leaves, imported Mexican herbs and spices, and even colorful piñatas. Or stop in at the local convenience store for a Mexican brunch. Hispanics are the fastest growing U.S. minority group, and over 50% of these immigrants now live in suburbs across the nation. Hispanic rural communities are growing, but central New York State has largely been overlooked. What attracted Hispanic families to Fleischmanns? A village with few economic opportunities, and before 1986, no Hispanic community. In 2000, Fleischmann's population was an astounding 20% Hispanic, and it's still growing. This small rural village in upstate New York is going through a remarkable transformation. The history of immigration in the United States is the history of the United States itself. Over the last 200 years, immigration from around the globe has established the diversity of our social fabric. For new immigrants, New York City has always been the gateway to the American dream. From there, they have radiated out into most other big cities in New York State as well as the rest of the country. New York State has long been a home for Hispanic immigrants. In the 1950s, the Great Migration of Puerto Ricans began to New York City, and by 1960 there were over 600,000 New Yorkers of Puerto Rican birth or descent in the city. In recent years, Hispanics from throughout Mexico, South and Central America, and the Caribbean have immigrated to New York City, creating a unique community representing every country in Latin America. The last few census have shown an explosion of Latinos in upstate cities like Poughkeepsie and Newburgh, but the rural areas remain mainly white and with little diversity. Poughkeepsie lies in the Hudson River Valley, midway between New York City and Albany.
During the 1980s, 1990s, Poughkeepsie started to go through an economic decline, and the city became very depressed. Once the city started receiving immigrants, the Hispanic immigrants, the face of the city started to change. If you've been to Poughkeepsie before the immigrants started arriving, it was a very different picture, very dilapidated and so forth, and now it's very vibrant.
Newburgh is a city that lies on the west bank of the Hudson River, about 60 miles north of New York City in Orange County. Like its neighbor Poughkeepsie, Newburgh experienced Hispanic immigration beginning in the 70s, with the largest wave throughout the mid-90s.
Throughout the years, the immigration to Newburgh has just snowballed, and it has increased to such a point that the Hispanic population in Newburgh now accounts for 36% of the total population.
Most of the Hispanic residents of Fleischmanns have ties to either Newburgh or Puebla, Mexico, or both. These families have migrated a second time, transforming this small upstate village just like they did Newburgh and Poughkeepsie. Bud Seif, a longtime Fleischmanns resident, remembers the town before the Mexicans began arriving in the 80s.
And when I got here, there was only one young teenager going to high school in Margaretville. There were no other kids in town. The town was really on its last legs, as people say. You know, that was 75. In 1980, the Republicans had a problem because they didn't know what to do with the immigrants, and they were starting the same kind of a beef they have now. Reagan took a shortcut, and he gave them amnesty. And so then a few of them started to move out of Newburgh, and a couple of them discovered around here.
The Hispanic population discovered Fleischmanns and found it a comfortable place to be.
In 1986, the Immigration Reform and Control Act gave many Latin American immigrants green cards throughout the United States, and some intrepid Mexican families with newly acquired mobility left Newburgh and settled about 6 miles outside of Fleischmanns in Margaretville.
My name is Bill Burns, and this is my wife, Gail McWhinney. Gail and I live in Fleischmanns, and we taught for many years together at Margaretville Central School, which is the school district of which Fleischmanns is part. And so we were there actually at the beginning of the arrival of Mexican American immigrants to our school and to this village. A group of people from the state of Puebla in Mexico, largely centered, I understand, in one little village called Honoria Hidalgo, outside of the city of Puebla in Mexico, had moved to Newburgh. But Newburgh's a tough town, and people often want to get out of Newburgh.
Unfortunately, economically speaking, Newburgh is not doing well at all. It's a very distressed city, and it's not as safe to raise a family in Newburgh. And I think that a lot of the Hispanic immigrants have taken notice of that.
Newburgh residents Alfredo and Renee Garcia and their families left Newburgh and purchased homes on top of a windswept mountain called Hubble Hill in Margaretville. In the 70s, retired dairy farmer Bill Dubovec subdivided some hayfields to construct small, Spartan homes for blue-collar New Yorkers who wanted a modest place for hunting, fishing, and to escape the city heat in the summertime.
And he was building these sort of chalets, which were maybe a 20 by 30 foot second home, vacation home, that a buyer would come in and finish himself.
Alfredo Garcia, which is my father-in-law, back on 86, his boss owned a trailer by Roxbury. His boss told him, it will be the perfect place to grow your family. They decided to make the change. And then, like everything else, once they come, they bring the brother, the sister, and then start to grow.
In 1986, I took a ride to Fleischmanns, and I saw the mountains and everything, and I saw the properties, and it's how I found my house. I love the house because it's in the mountains, it reminds me of my village, and I spoke to my wife, and we decided to buy the house.
Newburgh is, for the children, it's not a good area to raise children, and that's why we came to this area, because they have the opportunity to go to the school. Well, they have the opportunity there, but there is like a big city compared to here, and then the children, I think they don't have the same attention like they have over here, because they got to learn English. This is another reason down there. They are teaching English, but only maybe 2 hours or 3 hours the most, and most of the hours in the day are in Spanish.
In 1987, the first Mexican-American children arrived in the Margaretville school system.
A real estate agent showed up at school and met with the then assistant principal, the then principal of the high school, and said, get ready for this. There are going to be more people from this community moving into the school district.
I was quite surprised to hear that there were people from Newburgh that were settling in Fleischmanns. I had no idea that there was a secondary or tertiary migration to upstate New York.
PhD student Jacqueline Villarrubia Mendoza and Professor Samantha Friedman of the State University at Albany have been studying these new destinations for several years now. What they have noticed is that Hispanics are part of a dispersal of immigrants that forego the traditional gateways to settle in cities and towns that have had little experience with immigrants.
This movement to smaller areas has been a trend that's been noticed in the mid-1990s. People are now moving out of the traditional destinations. I think what's also unique about Fleischmanns is that people are going there and there's no real labor market pull.
I'm Murray Fenwick. I'm president of Stuck Embroidery, Western New York. We put stars on American flags. First two ladies that came to work here said we lived in Fleischmanns. And the men in their lives were all living in Fleischmann and driving to Newburgh to go to work. They knew people in Newburgh that were working in factories there and so on, and just continued to work where they knew they could get a job there. They ended up starting to work here, but they were already living in Fleischmanns when they did that.
I knew many people who were carpooling and commuting from Fleischmanns to Newburgh, an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half every single day, one way to work.
I still working in the same place, back and forth driving every day for 22 years.
People get together in a group, okay, and they, commute all together in one car. So this guy has his car. He's going to bring 3 or 4 people that work in the same place. They have the same schedule. There's another guy doing the same thing. Not a lot of high-paying jobs around here, but people gets by. People has to realize that, again, when we come to this country, a lot of people comes to work.
We had one man working here that very good employee, worked on the night shift. His name was Rene, and we were hoping that he'd become the night foreman, but eventually he said, no, I have some other things in mind. He ended up buying a restaurant in Fleischmanns and had a motel with that, and then before long he had a restaurant down in Newburgh and one in Middletown or somewhere.
Fue en el 92 que hubo una oportunidad de comprar el restaurante. Al principio lo compramos en sociedad, eran 4 socios, 4 hermanos, que era Alfredo García, Cruz García, Norberto Pérez y mi esposo René García.
In my mind, it was the parking lot plus the property. I said, wow, it's a beautiful property, but how much cost? Probably they're not going to afford it. And then I talked to my brothers, and then we be partners, and we bought it. Yeah.
We start 4 brothers, as well. We are going to start something this way, we can have something for the kids to work. And that's how we started. Later on, we split it and Rene took over. He's working fine up there.
In 1996 or so, my dad bought out all the other shares from my uncle. And I've worked in the restaurant since about 1997. That's actually when we moved into the motel units, because back then they used to have the restaurant in the front and it had several motel units. It was also around that time we bought our other restaurant. It's actually more like a bar and grill down in Newburgh, New York. We've got a few more businesses down there. Thankfully, we've been lucky enough to buy more businesses and continue with them. And things are going good.
Two restaurants, restaurant bar, and a deli, and that's what we have in Newburgh. And also, we don't rent; we bought the properties and then we open business. And I'm happy about that.
The Latino community in Fleischmanns continued to grow, and new opportunities for business grew with it.
That is what we're very proud of also here in Fleischmanns, is that we have a wonderful Mexican restaurant. We have a wonderful Mexican little tienda. You walk into the store and it's like you're in Puebla or another little village in Mexico. We gain so much by being open to what's around us.
My name is Martin Morales. I'm the owner of Mi Lupita Mexican grocery store here in Fleischmanns, New York. We like this tiny little village because it was charming and quiet. Seems like Mexico, when we were kids. And since I was thinking, since I first got in this country, to look for something like this for my kids. In big cities where you just go and buy your groceries and go home. You didn't even say hello to the person who is selling the stuff. Just going business in, business out, and that's it. Up here, we try to do more like Mexican type, Mexico. Any store that you go in, small towns in Mexico, it's just like mine. People come and say hello, and they stay for half an hour talking to you. And that's nice.
All ready to go? Latino farm workers have been working on the chicken and duck farms in Sullivan County for many years now. They live in full-time housing on the farms.
Okay, right now we're gonna be going to the farms where people work, and we're gonna be selling groceries. Candy, tortillas, bread, sweet bread, fruits, vegetables, cheese, milk, sodas, and that's pretty much what we're gonna be doing all day. Like I said, from 10:30 to sometimes 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Since they cannot easily visit Martin's bodega in Fleischmanns, Martin brings the bodega to them twice every week.
This is what we do. This is the way how we make money.
So, do you feel like you're providing something special? A special service?
All my products are like anybody else's products. It's just the way you do the job, the way you do the work. You socialize. You just don't come to sell. A lot of people, they like to talk about their lives, their problems, and here I am. This is my type of business, and I love it to do it.
You're like a bartender.
Yeah. You hear all the bad and the good, and you have fun. Me he ido por my business has been increasing, and lots of people might like the way I am. That's why they keep coming towards me. Yeah, and I love to do this kind of business, to be in touch with people. You know, real nice.
Sam Gill's country store has the appearance of an ordinary gas station convenience store, but inside is a surprise for those wanting a little bit of authentic cooking straight from Puebla.
Saturday and Sunday, we got Mexican brunch. We got like eggs, Mexicanese crispy tortilla, they call it tostada. They got refried beans, tomato salsa, cheese, and then we got sopes. That's like traditional from Puebla.
86, I came to Newburgh. So I came to New York and with the mentality to go to school, which I did. I went to school in Newburgh, and then, like everybody else, things are tough, and then you have to find a job.
Sam began working in Newburgh, and in 1994 he met and married Alfredo Garcia's oldest daughter and moved to Fleischmanns. As he began to travel the world as a sales representative for a lighting firm, he decided that he wanted to create a business in Fleischmanns where his whole family could get involved.
Since we live here in town, my wife, her sisters, my brother-in-law, so everybody came and worked on this business.
My daughters and Sam, they decided to buy this store. And it's how we get involved, they are here, working for living, and it's how the Spanish people start coming in here, And now it's a little Spanish community.
That's where we are.
Surely Rene Garcia Sr. and Alfredo Garcia didn't know how much change they would bring to a small rural village in the Catskills when they put down roots on Hubble Hill in 1986. Their pioneering spirit paved the way for relatives, extended family, and friends to discover a life outside of traditional immigrant destinations. In Fleischmanns, many of the Hispanic immigrants continue to commute to Newburgh or are employed at Sam's Country Store, the Cabana, and Mi Lupita. They also work for medium-sized operations like Stuckey Embroidery and Bread Alone in nearby Boyceville. In the summertime, there is work with contractors, private homeowners, and vacation hotels. Wherever they are employed, their strong work ethic is well appreciated.
When we run ads in the local Freeman in Kingston, we get no results. When we run ads and American people don't come looking for jobs, it's quite surprising to me at times when we have a snowstorm and we have 8 inches of snow here and we think, well, no one's going to show up. They start showing up. And we asked them, well, how was it up in Fleischmanns? They said, oh, we have a foot of snow already. And for people that aren't used to snow, they make it to work. And we had Americans that work less than a mile from the factory that call in, they can't get here.
In some ways, we probably have almost a special population because people have moved here to work. Everyone is working, and to me that's kind of special that people are so motivated and working so hard to make it here.
We have whatever we have. It's so easy because whatever we have, we make the money working, and it's like I told you, we work so many hours every day, and we got to work hard to make a little money.
I'm going to call you back. I'm going to talk to the real estate guy. I'll call you back. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Eduardo, he's a good worker. I found him through Mi Lupica. I went there and I said I needed a carpenter. I put my name in a piece of paper, and about a week later he called me up looking for a job.
You can stop it right here if you want.
En esta comunidad, en esta pequeña comunidad, quizás ellos trabajan el mismo trabajo que nosotros lo hacen por una cantidad a la hora, y nosotros hacemos quizás el trabajo por un poco menos, y eso es lo que no les gusta a ellos, porque si nosotros venimos a hacer el mismo trabajo y quizás mejor que ellos, les quitamos las oportunidades que ellos tienen. Pero en muchas otras cosas yo veo que muchos americanos no quieren trabajar, hacer el trabajo que las personas como yo venimos a hacer a este país.
He never stops working. He gets starts on the job and he works. And if there's anything with any stalling, if there's anything that has to slow down, he's sweeping, he's cleaning, he's picking up the tools, reorganizing. He doesn't ever sit and wait for somebody to tell him what to do. That's what's different about him.
The one employee that we had originally hired was a great worker. So this employee had actually told us, well, look, I know a lot of people, and they can come, work here. And so we figured, well, he's such a good employee with such a positive attitude that, we'd give it a shot. And we added 2 more employees, both who were Mexican. From that point on, anytime we needed to add employees, we would just ask, do you have any relatives or friends who need jobs? And that's the way we went about getting employees. They're all great. They're all very, very good employees. And really, you have to look at what your solid options are, and our options were to add people who were reliable, and that happened to be Hispanic. So I don't know why exactly, but I'm sure what your documentary is hoping to figure that out.
I thought I had a good work ethic, and I think I do, but they can work nonstop for 14, 15 hours a day, and it amazes me. I'm tired after 8. I'm like, okay, it's time to go home. It's time to go to sleep. And they're like, no, the day is still young. You have to work.
Mi esposa y yo llegamos acá en 91. Venimos de México, de una parte de Puebla. Se llama La Noria Hidalgo. Es un pueblo muy pequeño.
Hoy en día pienso que puede ser de unas 2,000 personas a 1,500 personas.
Humberto Mendoza works at Stuckey Embroidery in Boyceville.
Bueno, este es el trabajo que hacemos los inmigrantes. Todos los que estamos aquí.
Decidimos tener 4 hijos, gracias a Dios, 2 hombres y 2 mujeres. Y yo trabajaba, ella los cuidaba, hasta hoy de grandes ella empezó a trabajar, y hoy en día todos cooperamos de una manera u otra a trabajar, porque aunque Víctor es el más chiquito, pero en partes tengo que ir a trabajar y él va a ayudarme, y de una manera u otra él coopera en trabajar.
I'm the oldest in my family, and I held a lot of responsibilities with my siblings, because my parents worked all the time, and a lot was expected of me, and I took that responsibility very much to heart, because I knew how hard my parents were struggling and trying to keep us going to school.
She was one of my oldest daughter, and I think for her it was really hard, because she was help us to take care of the little children, the little brothers.
My father wouldn't come home till after 10 or so. My mother would get home around 5 or 6, and it was primarily my oldest sister Serena, who would take care of us, and my sister Lacey, and between the 2 of them, they made sure that we were taken care of, that we weren't fighting, that we were, well fed.
So at home I would be more more like of an adult responsible for my brothers and sisters. And then at school I kind of got to be a kid, but at the same time I really would put school second, whereas normally a kid would, you know, school was pretty much it. That's all you had to do.
Well, they've been working really hard, really hard. I mean, they don't have time for themselves. They all dedicated to us. They multiple jobs, from being a cooker to be baker to dishwasher, everything you can imagine. They're willing to do it because of us.
Everybody came to this country and work and send the children to go to the college, be like a home run. Because, you know, at least we have the chance, the opportunity to get those children. They don't have to be like us, working too hard to make a few pennies.
Life has been good to me since I moved up here. I mean, actually, I've been working like donkey, you know, having 2 jobs and working 80 hours a week, and working 7 days a week. But I'm happy with that because that's what I came for, you know, to get a better life, to get better life for my family and my kids.
Over the next decade, the number of English-speaking and U.S.-educated Hispanics will grow significantly. Also, the number of second-generation Latinos in U.S. schools will double. The Margaretville school system is ready to handle the challenge of educating bilingual students, in part because of the work done years ago by far-sighted people like retired husband and wife teachers Bill Burns and Gayla McWhinney.
But all of a sudden there's this new population and they couldn't even speak the language. Somebody had to do something. And they were great kids. And, that was part of it. It was fun. And I think, my faith at least tells me that, we're supposed to reach out to the immigrant, aren't you? Isn't that part of what we're supposed to do? Teaching English as a second language is different than teaching anything else. Because it's... you're teaching you're trying to help people to master the very medium of interaction, language.
Our classes are taught in English. The school made a decision a long time ago to not have bilingual classes, so all of our classes are in English with ESL support.
Coming into kindergarten next year, we have at least 33% that are, 33% of the whole new class is Hispanic students of varying degrees. My students, they're coming from behind. When you're learning in a language that's not your first language, it's always going to be more difficult for you. But I have students who just strive to make the best grade they can and are going home and studying for the tests and doing the work that I'm asking them to do.
You move from 4 levels to proficiency, meaning you no longer need these services because you've excelled quickly. Most of our students test out and do very, very well.
I think I was in second or first grade. And one memory that really stands out was I remember when we I think it must have been either the first day or so, but we had my parents or somebody, one of my cousins, somebody dropped me off, and I cried the whole day because I didn't understand the teachers, and there was all these kids in my face and trying to make me feel good, and it was the opposite. I was crying all day and I didn't understand them, and I just wanted to go home, and it just didn't seem very pleasant to me at the time.
We came younger, and the first thing, we didn't know any English, and we were feeling out of place, and because it wasn't our town, it wasn't our language, and people were sometimes mean, but we overcome all those experience, and we're happy, that we did, because we grew up a little stronger and with more knowledge of what was going on.
School is not only a daunting task for the children who enter only speaking Spanish, but also for parents who might not speak English or understand the way schools work in the United States and are too overwhelmed to learn because they spend so much time working.
They're perhaps a little intimidated by school. They're new to the community. They're very appreciative of the efforts that are given to help their students. but my guess is many of them didn't finish school, so it's kind of a bewildering place for them. But at the same time, they want their students to finish school, to get ahead here.
Bueno, en mi caso, nosotros fuimos 11 hermanos. 11 hermanos, 6 mujeres y 5 hombres. Entonces, pues mis padres allá en el pueblo, en Oaxaca, pues era difícil para ellos mantenernos a todos. Y estudios, pues menos nos iban a poder dar. Solo nos podían dar para comer o vestir. Y era difícil. Entonces, venir aquí para ellos, pues es para darle lo mejor a ellos y que ellos estudien, sigan adelante, hagan lo que nosotros no pudimos hacer.
Serene and Renee Garcia, along with their sisters Lisette and Osbelia, were the first in their families to graduate from both high school and college. They represent the transforming profile of the U.S. Latino.
When I was younger, it was hard. It was hard because there was just little things. For example, I would get in trouble if the class did something wrong and the teacher would yell at us. Out of respect, I would look down, because at home that's the way you don't, when your elders are talking to you or you're in trouble, if you look at them to their faces, like you're challenging them. So when we were in the classroom and the class was being reprimanded, or I would look down, so I would look guilty. So I would end up in the principal's office, and they'd ask me why I was there, and I wouldn't have a clue. And it took them a while for them to know why I kept looking down and what was going on. Throughout my whole high school career, I would say that the two didn't really mix. I had my home life and I had my school life, and they were both very different.
She wanted to go to college, and we kept a folder from the time. She showed this interest till we actually got her in Cayuga. But the father was very, 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 very strict.
Like if I wanted to do something, my teachers were very supportive. When my classmates and everybody started talking about college, I remember saying, well, do you think I can go to college? And they said, well, why not? You want to go, you should be able to go. And I went home and I told my parents, maybe I should go to college. And my dad actually thought it was funny that I had even said that.
Not only was Serena going to go to college, but Serena managed to be the president of her class and prom queen. But her father wouldn't let her go to the prom.
It was the junior prom that we had, and I felt that I had to go because I felt that it was something important for me to do, and my father said no, and I didn't find this out till afterwards, but a couple of my teachers went and spoke to my dad, and I guess my dad told them off.
Then I said to Bill, she's got to go to the prom.
Well, she wasn't the queen quite.
We knew she was going to be queen. We just
so I
knew
ended
in our
up
heart.
down in front of the La Cabana restaurant, and Renee, the father, was putting a sign up on the front of it, and I'm standing on the sidewalk talking a mile a minute about why he should allow his oldest daughter to go to the prom, and he wouldn't look at me. He'd answer occasionally, he'd say yes. I knew he was hearing me, I had to say, but he wouldn't look at me. And of course I felt awkward. I mean, it's his daughter, but it was Serena.
It was
and
Serena.
She wanted to go. So, I gave him my rap, and he went, okay, thank you.
I found a letter in the garbage in my father's bedroom. He had his small garbage can. He had thrown away a letter that my class had sent him. They also signed a note to my dad telling him to let me go, that it was very important for me to go, and they really wanted me there. And he never mentioned it to me. But I found it and I kept it. I still have it to this day.
When I left, I wasn't sure if she was going to go or not, and she did go. I think he got her a dress that afternoon.
He took her to Kingston. He bought her a dress. She was ready to go by 7 that night.
Right. That's why teaching ESL is different from teaching anything else.
I did go with my mom, but I went with my mom. But it didn't bother me because my mom and I were really close, and I was really glad she was able to go with me. and I was even prom queen, which I thought was just amazing for me, and it was even more amazing because I was able to experience that with my mom. She cried when they cried. I was still like, what's going on? And she's there crying.
The school is larger than the academic piece. It's an overreaching social experience as well. And this culture is as important as the academics, and it comes as one package. I'm seeing that shift, that for some reason, and I'm not sure why, that they are starting to encourage their students to participate more and realize the importance of that and support them in that.
I think back and I think that I kind of set a path for my brothers and sisters for them to go through, and it wasn't like it was intentional. I think a lot of it, my parents just didn't have the understanding of the system.
Every immigrant generation helps smooth the way for the next. Serene Garcia, her brother Rene Jr., and their younger brothers and sisters were every bit the pioneers that their father, mother, aunts, and uncles were in the middle 80s on Hubble Hill. Margaretville's graduating class of 2008 clearly shows their legacy.
Last year we had a very unique graduating class. Out of our class of 40 which graduated, we had 13 Hispanic students graduating, which is a huge percentage. Our graduation takes place out on the front lawn, and the bleachers were full of our Hispanic families and extended families, and so we made sure we had an interpreter for the ceremony. The one boy who was valedictorian said, I would also, after I read the speech, I would like to do it again in Spanish, because I know how proud that would make my parents and my extended family that would be there. And of course, in speaking with our superintendent, we thought that was an absolutely wonderful idea. And he did do that. And the feeling during that moment, it was quite extraordinary.
It was special. It was really special. And, the day we were there, a man came out and say, we didn't know him at all. And he basically, congratulated us, because he said that he was proud to see a lot of, people, a lot of Mexicans graduated, and that was a huge goal for us, to be able to graduate and show that we came here to work and to be a better person and to work hard, as always. You work hard, I think you can make it, and that was the family. I think the family had a lot to do with us. Be more stronger and not feeling sad just because somebody says, oh, you don't belong here, or, face what you have to face. I think that helped a lot, our family. To be a little more mature as well, do not take all for granted, because, you earn an opportunity, you don't take for granted. I mean, the opportunity of graduating, and for us to graduate, it was a big step. And my parents were so proud that day. That day, I can never forget that day. My dad was crying, and for us to see graduate, it was a special day. It was really special.
Different for a small rural community. First, I've heard the mixed language.
It made the rest of the community realize how significant it was.
The 2010 census will have new and interesting information about diversity in Delaware County. In the 2000 census, out of 370 full-time residents in Fleischmanns, 70, or almost 20%, were of Hispanic origin. In 2010, the Hispanic population may exceed 40%. This southeastern corner of Delaware County has long been a place full of diversity. The growth of the current Hispanic community has been gradual but steady. This Hispanic population joins a long line of immigrants that over the decades have found Fleischmanns a very comfortable place to be.
What was interesting though was that Fleischmanns was always open and accommodating to outsiders, much more so I think than many other towns in the vicinity, so that people from New York City or from wherever felt comfortable here. And this has probably been true of Fleischmanns over the years, because each subsequent generation, different groups come up. We have an interesting mix of the longtime locals. We have a growing Hispanic population, and in the summers we also have a large Hasidic population that comes up from the city. So it's an interesting mix, but always an open mix and a comfortable mix. No one never felt unwelcome here.
I come up since 40 years at least. When I came up, there was a boom town and had hotels, and mostly a lot of German and Hungarians and Austrian immigrants, and they had a following, and it was here an elegance in the hotels. It was indescribable, and if you were unable to wear a mink stole, then you were frowned upon.
When I came already, the hotels were gone, so I kind of saw it where it is now. Actually, I see it coming back.
The place has turned around, and now it's just an utterly charming place to live in. With always kids running around, and they're all well behaved.
Para nosotros la vida es bonita vivirla en este pueblo que es tan bonito, la naturaleza, el silencio, el canto de los pájaros, de los grillos.
No hay muchos peligros como en la ciudad. Está tranquila aquí Fleischmanns, está tranquilo. O sea, yo creo que nos recuerda un poquito nuestro país o nuestro pueblo donde nacimos.
I'm really happy with the new community that came to here. At least you don't see too many houses. It was closed for the winter. Now most the houses are open. So
when I get home, it's for me like I'm on vacations. Just join the Jehovah's creation, the mountains, and especially in the fall, when you see the colors, the snow. Out here is so beautiful.
You feel like, you're in a movie actually, when you see like the small towns and everybody knows everybody's name. Good morning, Mike. Good morning. How are you? Thanks. Yeah.
5 years ago, the cabana burnt down, and they were considering abandoning the property.
We were different, and people didn't understand that. But once they got to know us, and through the restaurant, they'd come in and get to know us and know our family, and then the restaurant burned, and then they showed their support. It changed, and then from that moment on, it just the whole town it changed how they saw us and how we saw them.
On January 10th, 2003, tragedy struck the Garcia family. An electrical fire destroyed the La Cabana restaurant and the motel units behind it where the Garcia family lived.
When you're in need, the town always pulls together to help you. When my parents' restaurant burned down, at the time that was our home, and when the restaurant burned down, everything burned with it. It wasn't like, oh, the restaurant burned down and we're going to go home.
I'd say it was their first real vacation in 20 years. And, they get a phone call while they're over there and, say, hey, sorry, the restaurant burned down. You guys got to come home. It was rather devastating.
The town pulled together.
The village responded with a benefit dinner, auction, and bake sale.
It was after that we really saw the community pull together, really help us out. And that's when we realized that, hey, the community not only accepts us for who we are, but accepts us for the businesses and things, the amenities that we have provided for them. And it was greatly appreciated.
United Methodist Church of Fleischmanns saw a need for reaching out to the Hispanic community. Peg DeBenedetto, co-chairman of the church committee, started a language class. But instead of just trying to teach Hispanics English, Peg thought the Anglo community could take the opportunity to learn Spanish as well.
We looked at the Hispanic community and we realized that we had many local people who have been living here their whole lives not interacting with the Hispanic community, and vice versa.
So I knew that there was a Hispanic community in Fleischmann, just going to the restaurants, going to the businesses. And in a supermarket, I would see a Hispanic community, but I didn't know how to get in touch with them. They were kind of like a hidden population.
We came up with a language program that teaches English to Spanish speakers, Spanish to English speakers.
It really wasn't about teaching the language. It was about making contact between the communities, between the Hispanic community and the U.S. community. And I realized that just the fact that we were in the same room and talking to each other was the purpose of the class.
And through that, over probably 4 years, we've come up with a real meshing of individuals and communities. We figured out a way to get everybody together in a positive way. It's been very satisfying, and I think it's been very effective. And really, it's about getting to know the other people in class who are Hispanic.
En la ciudad antigua.
Así, conoces a
Antigua, en Antigua.
Todo.
Así.
Todo Guatemala.
Conoces.
Yeah.
Ah, qué bien.
Building the community and making it strong is something that we strive for.
And the Spanish lessons became a means to get the people together.
So I think in a place like this you can really get to know people as they are, as opposed to just sort of seeing people as kind of those guys who are looking for work. Every morning on Route 97 or whatever route it is that runs through New City and East Ramapo, 300 Latin guys are kind of congregated, lined up looking for day labor, looking for work. Well, the people who are going to hire them, whether they're going to hire them for business or for landscaping at their home or whatever, they don't live in that same neighborhood where they're lined up. So when they come in and see all these people, it's just those worker guys. Whereas in a town like Fleischmanns, we all live in the same village together. And so you get to see people and how people operate in their everyday life. And you know, if you're paying any attention at all, it's hard not to be impressed with the family values and the work ethic and the sort of attention to just doing, you know, what you're supposed to do in terms of go to work and take care of your children and send them to school, that you know, the Mexican-American community seems to embody.
It's a lot of different things that, you know, we need to learn about, you know, because again, these Spanish people, they come to here they are not looking for problems. Only they try to live here nice and quiet and really hard workers. Yeah.
I find them to be very strong people, and the sense of family value is incredible. And that can only strengthen our culture if we're getting more of that into America. Bring it on, you know. Let them come. They want to work hard.
It adds diversity, and I think that's what our country is all about. If you only stay among your own, you only know among your own, and that breeds prejudice and tension. So what I think they bring into the community is this kind of diversity, and that can bring about a lot of change.
To me, the more important is to respect the people. To me, that's the home run. That's the more important to me. Respect the people, no matter it's a boy, woman, man, old man, no matter who. You gotta respect, because we don't know him.
Well, Fleischmanns is a very small town. If you blink and you're driving by, you'll miss it. So it's kind of hard not to get along or get to know people there. You kind of just get to know people, and it just by being able just to know them, it just gives you a different aspect as to what kind of people they are. You know, what kind of, and it goes both ways.